The city glimmered under the soft glow of its evening lights, the streets alive with hurried footsteps, honking cars, and the murmurs of countless conversations. Among the chaos, a young woman named Clara leaned against the cold brick wall of a quiet cafe tucked between towering buildings. Her heart pounded nervously, her fingers fiddling with the strap of her worn-out handbag. She wasn't supposed to be here, not as herself, but as the girl who had agreed to a deal she never imagined she would accept. The offer had come out of nowhere. A woman she barely knew, stylish, cold, and dripping in wealth, had stopped her in the flower shop where Clara worked part-time. She had studied Clara for a long while before saying, "You want money, don't you?" Clara had frowned, unsure where this was going, but the woman had leaned closer, her lips curling into a bitter smile. "I'll pay you, handsomely, to ruin someone's evening. A blind date, to be exact." Clara should have said no. She wasn't the kind of girl who meddled in other people's lives. But then she thought of her mother, lying in the small hospital bed, her bills piling up faster than Clara could ever earn from her minimum wage jobs. She thought of her little brother, still in school, waiting for her to bring home something to eat. Against her better judgment, desperation whispered louder than conscience. "Who?" Clara had asked quietly. The woman handed her an envelope with the name and picture inside. A man, handsome in an effortless way, with strong features that suggested quiet power. His name was Ethan Cole. A millionaire CEO. A single dad. The task sounded ridiculous at first. Ruin his blind date, make sure the woman he was supposed to meet would walk away humiliated or disgusted enough never to see him again. "I don't care what you do, spill a drink, start an argument, pretend you're his ex. Just make sure it fails," the woman instructed with an icy tone. And now Clara found herself standing outside the cafe, her conscience in a battle with the thought of that hospital bill. She told herself it was just one night. Just one date. She wouldn't hurt him, not really, just inconvenience him, make a scene, leave. The money would fix everything, at least for a while. When she finally stepped inside, her eyes scanned the room nervously. The cafe was cozy, filled with golden light and the rich aroma of coffee beans and fresh pastries. And then she saw him. Ethan. He was seated by the window, his posture straight, his suit perfectly tailored, but his expression carried something softer than the sharp lines of his business reputation. His eyes glanced toward the door just as Clara walked in, and for a moment, she froze. She had expected arrogance, the kind of coldness wealthy men often carried. Instead, his gaze was kind, almost searching. He looked like a man carrying more than his share of burdens. She took a shaky breath, reminding herself of her role. She was supposed to ruin this. Nothing more. Ethan stood politely as she approached, mistaking her for his date. "Clara?" he asked, extending his hand. The name startled her. "What? My friend set this up," he explained. She said her name was Clara. "Or you?" It hit her then, this wasn't just some scheme. The woman who paid her to ruin this must have used her name. Her real name. And Ethan, completely unsuspecting, thought she was the woman he was meant to meet. Clara forced a smile and nodded, though her stomach twisted. "Yes, I'm Clara." He smiled warmly, gesturing for her to sit. "I'm glad you came. Blind dates aren't exactly my comfort zone." She sat across from him, her plan unraveling in her head. How could she ruin this without revealing herself? And why, the longer she looked at him, did the thought of hurting him suddenly feel impossible? The waiter brought menus, and they began to talk. Ethan's voice was calm, steady, with a hint of warmth that made Clara forget her lines, forget the money, forget the woman waiting for news of failure. He spoke of his daughter, a 7-year-old with curls as wild as her laughter. His eyes softened when he mentioned her, and Clara could see how deeply he loved the little girl. He didn't talk about his wealth or his company. He talked about being a father, about bedtime stories, about missed soccer games, about trying his best. Clara felt her heart ache. He wasn't the man she'd been led to believe he was. He wasn't arrogant or selfish, he was human, vulnerable, carrying the weight of being both a CEO and a father. And all she could think of was how cruel it would be to sabotage this evening. But then Ethan asked her about herself. She panicked, fumbling for lies, yet the truth slipped out in fragments. "I work at a flower shop. I take care of my mom, she's sick." She didn't mean to reveal so much, but Ethan listened without judgment, his eyes full of quiet empathy. As the evening went on, Clara realized something terrifying: she wasn't pretending anymore. She was laughing genuinely, smiling without force. And Ethan was looking at her not as some stranger forced upon him, but as though she was someone he could actually trust. When the date ended, Ethan insisted on walking her home. Outside her small apartment building, he paused, his hands deep in his pockets, his smile a little shy despite his powerful presence. "This may sound strange," he admitted, "but tonight felt different. I didn't expect it." "Thank you." Clara's throat tightened. She couldn't tell him the truth. "Not yet. Good night, Ethan," she whispered before disappearing inside. That night, as she sat beside her mother's hospital bed, the envelope of money still in her bag, Clara felt the weight of her choice crushing her. She had been paid to ruin his life, but instead, she feared she had ruined her own, because her heart was no longer hers. It belonged to the man she was supposed to betray. And so began a story neither of them had expected, a story of deception, redemption, and a love strong enough to defy even the cruelest intentions. The following morning, Clara sat at the flower shop, absent-mindedly trimming roses while replaying every second of the previous night. Ethan's smile haunted her, his kindness gnawed at her conscience. She hadn't touched the envelope of money. It sat like poison in her purse, a reminder of the lie she had stepped into. The little bell above the shop door chimed. Clara glanced up, expecting a customer, but froze when she saw the woman who had hired her. Elegant, sharp-eyed, and radiating authority, she stepped inside as though she owned the place. "Well?" the woman asked coldly, tapping her manicured fingers on the counter. "Did you ruin it?" Clara swallowed. Her voice wavered. "Not exactly. I mean, I went, but..." The woman narrowed her eyes. "But what?" Clara's hands tightened around the scissors. He's not the man you think he is. He's kind. He doesn't deserve this." The woman let out a cruel laugh. "You're naive. Do you think kindness changes anything? He destroyed me once, and I won't let him find happiness again." Clara's stomach dropped. So that was it. This wasn't about business. It was personal. Revenge. But Clara didn't ask questions, she only shook her head. "I can't do it. Find someone else." The woman's expression darkened, but she leaned closer, her perfume suffocating. "If you walk away, the money disappears. And so does any chance of saving your mother. Think carefully, dear. Ethan Cole is not the man you think he is." Then she left, the bell chiming behind her. Clara sank into the chair, trembling. The words echoed in her head, but her heart refused to believe them. Days turned into weeks, and somehow, Ethan kept finding excuses to see her again. At first, Clara resisted, reminding herself of the betrayal, the lie at the core of it all. But Ethan's persistence wasn't forceful, it was gentle, genuine. He would drop by the flower shop to buy bouquets for his daughter, or invite Clara for coffee with the excuse that he could use a break from boardrooms and contracts. One evening, Ethan surprised her by bringing his daughter, Lily, to the shop. Clara had been closing up when the little girl bounded in, her curls bouncing, her smile so bright it lit the entire room. "Daddy said you make the prettiest flowers," Lily chirped, hugging a teddy bear under one arm. Clara's heart melted instantly. She knelt down to Lily's level, offering her a small daisy. "For you," she whispered. Lily gasped as though it were treasure. "Thank you." She turned to Ethan. "Daddy, can she come to my school play? Please." Ethan laughed softly, scratching the back of his neck. "She's very persuasive, you'll find." Clara smiled, but deep inside, her chest ached. With every passing day, her bond with Ethan, and now Lily, was growing stronger, and so was the weight of her secret. The school play came, and Clara attended, sitting in the audience as Lily proudly scanned the crowd to find her. When their eyes met, Lily beamed, waving so hard that Clara thought her tiny arm might fall off. Ethan sat beside her, his hand brushing against hers on the armrest. Neither pulled away. After the play, they walked Lily home, the little girl skipping ahead with her teddy bear. The night air was crisp, and Ethan finally broke the silence. "Clara, I don't know how to explain it. But meeting you, it feels like I've found something I didn't even know I was missing." Clara's breath caught. She wanted to say it back, but how could she? He didn't know the truth. He didn't know she had been sent to destroy him. "Ethan, she began, but before she could confess, Lily turned and shouted, 'Race you home.' And Ethan laughed, running after her. The moment was gone, but fate had a cruel way of revealing secrets. A week later, Clara came home to find the woman waiting for her on the steps of her apartment. Her lips curved into a triumphant smile as she held up a photo, Clara and Ethan together, walking hand in hand from Lily's school. "You're getting comfortable," the woman sneered. "But don't forget why you were there in the first place. If you don't do as I asked, I'll tell him everything. And when he finds out, do you think he'll forgive you?" Clara's throat tightened, her chest burning. The woman pressed the photo into her hand and walked away, leaving Clara trembling. That night, Clara lay awake by her mother's side, staring at the ceiling. She had two choices: come clean and risk losing Ethan forever, or keep the secret and let the lie grow until it destroyed them both. And in her heart, she knew the truth always found its way out. The cafe where Ethan and Clara had first met had become their quiet place. Weeks after their first encounter, Ethan invited her again, this time not for casual conversation, but with something heavier in his eyes. Clara noticed the way he stirred his coffee absently, his gaze often drifting toward the window. "Clara," he began, his tone more vulnerable than she had ever heard, "I need to ask you something important." Her heart skipped. She feared the question, yet leaned closer anyway. "What is it?" He hesitated, then finally said, "You've been different from anyone I've ever met. You don't care about the company, the money, or any of the things most people chase me for. You've shown me a side of life I thought I'd lost. And Lily adores you." His lips curved into a faint smile. "I think I do, too." Clara's breath caught. Her chest ached with both joy and dread. She wanted to say it back, but the words tangled in her throat, bound by guilt. Instead, she whispered, "Ethan," but never finished, because the bell above the cafe door rang, and the woman walked in. The one who had hired Clara. Ethan's expression shifted instantly, his jaw tightening. "Vanessa," he muttered. Clara's blood ran cold. Vanessa. The name clicked. The woman wasn't just some stranger, she was Ethan's ex-fiancée, the one who had walked out years ago when life with a single father became too inconvenient. Vanessa's eyes sparkled with cruel amusement as she approached the table. "Well, isn't this charming? Ethan Cole, on a date with," she turned her gaze to Clara, her smile widening. "Oh, I know her." Clara froze, every nerve screaming. Ethan frowned. "You know Clara?" "Yes," Vanessa said smoothly, her voice like venom dipped in honey. "She works at a little flower shop, doesn't she? Struggling to pay her mother's medical bills." She leaned closer, her gaze never leaving Clara. "Tell him, darling. Tell him why you really showed up that night." Ethan's brow furrowed. He looked at Clara, confusion turning into unease. What is she talking about? Clara's throat tightened. She wanted to explain, but Vanessa didn't give her the chance. "She was paid," Vanessa declared, her tone sharp with satisfaction. "Paid to ruin your date. Paid to humiliate you so you'd never look at another woman again. And guess who paid her?" She tapped her own chest, her smirk wicked. Ethan's face drained of color. He turned slowly to Clara, his eyes filled with disbelief, hurt, and something worse, betrayal. "Is that true?" Clara's lips trembled. Tears welled in her eyes. "Ethan, please, let me explain. I never meant to. Is it true?" His voice was firm, breaking in places. She could not lie. Not anymore. "Yes," she whispered. The cafe seemed to fall silent, the clatter of dishes and chatter around them fading into nothing. Ethan pushed back his chair, standing abruptly. His hand trembled as he raked it through his hair. "I trusted you. I let you into my life, into my daughter's life. And all of it was built on a lie." Tears streamed down Clara's face. "It wasn't like that. Yes, I agreed at first, but then I met you, Ethan. And you weren't the man she said you were. You were better. But Ethan held up a hand, stopping her words. His eyes, once so warm, were now cold and wounded. "Don't. Please, don't." He glanced at Vanessa, then back at Clara, shaking his head as though he couldn't bear to see her anymore. I thought maybe this time, I'd found something real." His voice cracked, and then he turned and walked out, leaving Clara shattering in the middle of the cafe. Vanessa leaned down, whispering near Clara's ear before leaving too. "I told you. He'll never forgive you." That night, Clara sat alone by her mother's bedside, broken. She had lost him. The envelope of money lay on her table, untouched, cursed. Her mother stirred awake, her frail hand brushing Clara's. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Clara sobbed softly, burying her face in her mother's hand. I ruined everything. I hurt the only man who ever made me feel like I mattered." Her mother's tired eyes held wisdom despite her weakness. "Then fix it. If you love him, don't give up. Fight for him. Tell him the truth, not just the mistake, but your heart. If he's worth loving, he'll listen." But Ethan was not ready to listen. For days, Clara tried. She left messages, waited outside his office, even wrote letters. He ignored them all. When she showed up at his company lobby, security politely escorted her out. It wasn't anger that hurt the most, it was his silence. Yet the one person she hadn't expected reached out. Lily. The little girl knocked on her flower shop door one afternoon, clutching her teddy bear. Clara gasped, kneeling beside her. "Lily, sweetheart, what are you doing here? Where's your dad?" "He's at work," Lily said softly, her eyes brimming with tears. "Daddy doesn't smile anymore. He doesn't laugh. He just sits in his office and stares. I heard him say your name in his sleep." She clutched Clara's hand desperately. "Can't you fix it? Please. I miss him being happy." Clara broke down, hugging the little girl tightly. In that moment, she realized, this wasn't just about her or Ethan. It was about Lily too. About giving them back the family they both deserved. And so Clara made a decision. She wouldn't hide anymore. She would confront Ethan one last time, no matter the risk. Clara stood outside the towering glass building of Cole Enterprises, her hands trembling as she clutched a small notebook. Inside were the letters she had written but never sent, pages filled with her truth, her regrets, and her love. She wasn't sure if he would see her, but she couldn't give up. When she tried to enter, the receptionist looked sympathetic but shook her head. "Mr. Cole isn't taking visitors." Clara's heart sank, but she wasn't leaving. She waited outside in the pouring rain, her thin coat clinging to her as people rushed past. Hours passed, her body aching, her resolve tested, but she stayed. She stayed because love wasn't something you abandoned when it hurt. Finally, long after sunset, Ethan appeared at the doors, his bodyguard holding an umbrella. He froze when he saw her. His first instinct was to turn away, but something about her soaked figure stopped him. She stood shivering, her eyes raw with tears, her notebook pressed to her chest as if it were life itself. "Ethan, please," she called, her voice breaking. He shook his head, pain flashing across his features. "Why are you here? Haven't you done enough?" Clara's lips trembled. She stepped forward, water dripping from her hair. "I didn't take her money. Not a single cent. It's still in the envelope. I couldn't touch it because it felt dirty, like poison. Yes, I agreed at first, but the moment I met you, everything changed. You weren't some arrogant millionaire like she said. You were real. A father who loves his little girl more than anything. A man who carried his world on his shoulders. And I fell for you, Ethan. Against every reason, against every warning, I fell for you." His expression wavered, but anger flickered again. "Words don't erase betrayal." Clara's tears mixed with the rain. "Then let my actions speak." She handed him the notebook, her hands shaking. "Every letter in here is for you. Every word is my heart. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know the truth. Not for me," her voice cracked, "but for Lily. Because she deserves a father who smiles, and I can't stand knowing I took that away." For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. His jaw tightened, his chest rising and falling with the storm inside him. Then, without a word, he took the notebook and walked past her, leaving her standing in the rain. Clara thought it was over. But later that night, Ethan sat in his study, the storm outside echoing the storm in his heart. He opened the notebook reluctantly, telling himself he wouldn't care. Yet as he read, the words cut deep. "The first time I saw you, I thought you'd be cold. Instead, you looked like a man who hadn't rested in years. I wanted to ruin your night, but all I wanted, when I sat across from you, was to make you smile. I hated myself for lying. Every time you spoke about Lily, every time you laughed with me, the guilt grew heavier. But so did my love. How do you confess to a man that you were supposed to break him, when all you want is to heal him? If I disappear from your life, please believe one thing, I loved you, Ethan. With every piece of me, I loved you." By the time he reached the last page, his eyes blurred. He dropped the notebook onto the desk, his hands covering his face. For the first time in weeks, he let himself admit it, he still loved her. The next morning, Lily burst into his study, her teddy bear in hand. Daddy, can we see Clara today? Please. I miss her. Ethan hesitated, torn. But when he looked at his daughter's hopeful eyes, he realized the truth. He wasn't just punishing Clara, he was punishing Lily and himself. So he made a decision. That evening, Clara was closing the flower shop when the bell rang. She looked up, expecting a customer, and froze. Ethan stood there, holding the notebook in one hand, Lily's tiny hand in the other. Her breath caught. Ethan. He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. I read every word. His voice was quiet, but steady. You hurt me, Clara. More than I can put into words. But those letters, they weren't lies. I could feel it. And Lily, he looked down at his daughter, who was smiling up at Clara. She needs you. And maybe I do too. Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks. Are you saying? Ethan's lips curved into the faintest smile. I'm saying I don't know how to trust again overnight. But I'm willing to try. If you'll stay. Clara let out a broken laugh, covering her mouth as relief and love flooded her. I'll stay. I'll never leave. Lily squealed, rushing to hug Clara's legs. Ethan stepped forward, his hand brushing Clara's cheek tenderly, the warmth returning to his gaze. And in that quiet flower shop, among roses and daisies, the walls of betrayal crumbled. For the first time, Ethan leaned down and kissed her, not with the passion of a fleeting romance, but with the fragile, trembling hope of a man learning to love again. And Clara kissed him back, knowing that this time, there were no lies. Only truth. Only love. Only a future waiting to be written. Weeks later, as autumn leaves painted the city gold, Clara found herself at the park with Ethan and Lily. They sat together on a bench, watching Lily chase butterflies with laughter that echoed like music. Ethan slipped his hand into Clara's, his thumb brushing gently over her skin. Do you realize, he whispered, if Vanessa hadn't tried to ruin me, I never would have found you. Clara smiled, her heart full. Life has strange ways of leading us to the right place. Ethan kissed her temple softly. Then maybe this was never a mistake. Maybe it was fate. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, the three of them, father, daughter, and the woman who was once sent to break them, stood together, not broken, but whole. Not a ruined date. Not a betrayal. But the beginning of a love strong enough to survive even the darkest lies.